Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We're the Skeleton Crew, and we're back for another Q&A.
Woo!
This is October's.
Yeah.
I don't care to say what month it is.
Listen, the gulf is closing.
We are closing the gap.
We're at least doing ones where it's like October's when it starts getting a little cold out. It is currently cold out.
It'll still be cold out when it comes out. It's
okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to answer questions that you ask us. As a little reminder, we have a Patreon, and in that Patreon, if you're a supporter at Basilosaurus tier or higher, I believe, you can submit questions every month for our monthly Q&A videos, which are monthly.
And for patrons.
And
Indeed.
they're monthly, and every month we will record one of these videos and release it, so you'll get a timely answer to the questions that you are asking us. The reason I bring this up now is that we noticed that there was a particular theme to a lot of these questions.
Yes.
Which is perhaps now a little bit out of date.
It surprised me at first before I was like, why did so many people ask about like this theme? Oh, it makes sense when you consider when they asked it.
Yes. And if you'd like to ask us questions for our next Q&A video, or not our next one, but a Q&A video.
Uh-oh. He's gone, folks.
All that is to say, patrons, is that if you have a timely question that you need answered very, very shortly, I mean, we're probably not the people who you should be reaching out to.
Service line.
Because we probably there's very few emergencies with which we can be actual help. And if you are interested in a question and it's not an emergency and you're a patron, then ask us and we'll answer it in a very timely manner. Which is why today we're talking about October questions that are a pretty spooky themed.
Yes, they're extremely spooky. Now, Dalton, as the question monger or question meister,
today I feel like a monger.
Okay, as the monger of questioning, why don't you question us?
I think I shall. And by virtue, folks, if you've gotten used to this format, by virtue of the way in which these questions were responded to, I won't be answering them all first.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, Dalton. I think I just sneak in there at some point?
You did. It's okay. I'm not upset about it. It's
I've usurped your position as the first answerer.
But our first question comes to us from Gojira, who asks, if you were to make a dinosaur horror film, what premise and species roster would you guys use?
I think that this is going to be our longest answer. So we're starting off with kind of, I think, the meat of the video.
Yes.
Looks like meat of the video is back on the proverbial menu.
Of the video.
Yes, I'm trying to move the document onto my other... Here we go. I've got them both up at once, which is good. Okay. Very, very simple premise. I think would be effective. Group of kids finds a baby theropod dinosaur in the woods. It's all feathery. They don't really know that it's a baby dinosaur, because why would they know that? So they think it's like a lost baby bird. They're well-meaning. They don't know that you're not supposed to pick up baby birds. So they pull the baby bird into the house, and they have their family get involved in trying to take care of it. I like the idea of it being kind of a very supportive family. It's like everybody's pretty on board. Like, let's all take care of this baby bird. Also, this doesn't look like any kind of baby bird we've ever seen. We got to find out what this is. Maybe we take it to like the local nature rehab center or something like that. I don't know. Make it very sweet, and then have at night the parents of the baby dinosaur try to get it back, and it's a horrifying survival situation of some sort. I think doing something where it's like a house that's kind of remote, maybe make it like, you can get around some issues of modernity by making it just like, I don't know, a storm where the power lines were knocked out and like there's not really cell service. Or you set it like in the 90s or something, or even in the 2000s before cell phones were common, which would also help explain why like kids who would maybe be dinosaur fanatics wouldn't recognize this as a baby dinosaur. There's a lot of things you could do with it, but I just think that... I don't like dinosaur horror movies where the dinosaur is just trying to kill people for no reason. I think a very good motivator is obviously that the humans have its baby and they want their baby back. And yes, this is obviously part of the plot of The Lost World, but
part of
part of. I mean, a major driver of the plot. But I think it's something that could be done in a way that doesn't feel stupid.
James, I just want to say your point there of like maybe setting it in the 90s or something. Like, part of me kind of likes the idea of having this very accurate dinosaur in a time before we knew that's what dinosaurs looked like.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Right.
Yeah.
Because like this is, not to play my hand too strongly here, but when I was trying to write a novel back before I was a PhD student, that was a major part of the plot, was that people didn't know what to do with it because the scientific knowledge of what a dinosaur looked like wasn't advanced enough. And so everybody was just responding to things like they were birds and didn't really have a way of understanding or interpreting them. Anyway, that's my premise.
That's pretty cool.
And I think any theropod would be good, but I think one that's like kind of more in the human size range would be nice. You want something where it's big enough to be very threatening, but small enough that it could probably get into the house. Like, I don't think it would work to just have like T-Rex standing outside being like, "Give me my baby." But also you don't want it to just be like a giant CGI fest of the T-Rex, like, smashing the house to pieces trying to get the baby. You want something where it could like get through a door.
Yeah. I like that. That's a cool idea.
Thank you.
I don't have as concrete of a simple answer, but this did make me think about this a lot, and I enjoyed thinking about this question today. It was a fun mental diversion. But I think my initial thought is that it's tricky, because I think that creature horror is very often fun, but often is less than good. And I would want to make like a good thing and not just like grisly.
Controversial stance.
Well, I would want to make like something good with staying power that isn't just like insert X animal of the day, like sci-fi original movie kind of thing. Because like that being like probably the peak of the genre of creature horror is also maybe one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time, which is Jaws. And I think that as a paleontologist, right, the answer might be tempting to be like, well, I want to like, there's so many dinosaurs I want to feature and there's all this and that. I'm less concerned, frankly, about exactly what dinosaur it is. And more so think that it depends on not focusing on the creature and more on the characters. And the biggest issue is removing the power of the people, because animals are not really scary unless you don't have the faculties to deal with them. Like I watched recently I'm not afraid of hippopotamuses because I don't encounter them very often. And when I do, there's barriers between them. But I watched a TikTok of some lady in like a tiny canoe in a river, and there were a bunch of hippos, and I was like, that would be scary because you're just in a canoe, and like, what can you do about this? But you have to remove power, so the people can't have an abundance of weapons or guns or cars, vehicles. There can't be like big concrete structures, because then you can just hide in them. It doesn't work. Jaws works because as people, like, we aren't really capable of defending ourselves in the water when we swim. And then Brody, Quentin, Hooper go out in a boat, and they're all alone with just their equipment on a boat, and then the boat gets destroyed. And that's why it works as scary and tense, is because of that. So I would probably limit it to one, maybe two species of dinosaurs, because I don't want this to just be like, here's my cool zoo of dinosaurs. Like, they all look amazing. Maybe like an Allosaurus or something like a Cryolophosaurus. I think something that's big, like James said, but not T-Rex big, maybe, because while T-Rex is scary, it broaches on the so big it kind of becomes a little less threatening, because we have a size advantage on kind of being able to get away at that point. But something with like crests or like some unique visual appeal. The other idea I had is like a Carnotaurus with exaggerated horns. And that plays into my second piece of this, which is if you make this a period piece, then people could maybe think it's some kind of demon or a demonic entity. But I think that, and then maybe you get a third species of herbivore and it gets mad when they find its nest or like its thing. And you can have like a cheeky moment of like, oh, herbivores can be dangerous too. But a herbivore can't be a good main antagonist because there's no reason for it to continue to pursue the protagonists. The people need to be isolated, cut off. Could be on an island, could be a plane crash, a shipwreck. It doesn't really matter why the dinosaur is there. It could be a time portal. It could be a lost world situation. It doesn't really matter. I think the best way to do it is to make it a period piece, because then it removes the element of modern technology and of people understanding what it is they're dealing with. My my mind immediately went to potentially doing something with loggers or fur trappers, like 1700s, like fur trappers or timbermen in the late 1800s in like Nova Scotia, like deep in the forest. There's a community of people. You've got the opportunity for like a bunch of different kind of cool characters. Some of them like each other, some of them don't, and they have to deal with something they've never seen before, and they only have the technology of the time. They can't contact the outside world for help. Maybe there's a small settlement that they can go to, but they don't have, you know, like automatic weapons or anything. They've got a musket and a Bowie knife, and they've got to fight an Allosaurus. And that'd be kind of my way of doing
I
this.
would also watch that movie, Dalton.
I have an answer that's similar to Dalton's. I think that you really hit on a lot of what I think are kind of the core aspects of what makes an effective animal horror. Kind of a subset of just like monster creature feature or whatever. But like, if you want to treat these as real animals and not just have them be a monster that you're reskinning, then I think that the best movies that do something with that are ones where, like Dalton said, the humans are depowered in some way, or really it's kind of like harsh situation made worse with the addition of animals. And like humans aren't the best at being out in the middle of the ocean without any sort of assistance. That's already going to be scary. Sharks barely do anything to people most of the time, and they're already horrifying because we just kind of have an innate sense of like, yep, this thing can casually swim faster than I can when I'm going all out and is way more agile than me and stuff. I think that one of the best animal horror movies of air quotes recent memory, because this came out ages ago, I think is like kind of really slept on, is I love the movie The Grey with Liam Neeson. And that one, it's kind of like, it's a plane crash up in Alaska in the winter. This is not a good situation to be in, regardless of the fact that they are accidentally moving closer and closer to the central hunting area of a pack of incredibly aggressive wolves. Like, this is from bad to worse. And I like the plane crash idea, and this is something that like on a previous Q&A or a stream or something like that, we got a question about like what would be your dream Jurassic Park sequel or Jurassic franchise sequel, and I shared in that one that basically an idea of like people get shipwrecked on kind of like the story that isn't told in Jurassic Park 3, but not specifically with Jurassic Park 3, of like a group of people get shipwrecked on an island and gradually figure out, holy we're on Jurassic Park. I think would be a very fun story, almost with elements of Lost and stuff like that, where it's just like gradually like just people getting picked off by dinosaurs and all that sort of stuff. And I also actually, to tip my hand to a question later, which honestly I should have asked if we could have just combined two of them, of what's a good horror movie dinosaur, is I think that leaning into things that make dinosaurs scary would be to this hypothetical film's advantage. Like things like that, like they're larger, they some of them have more enhanced movement abilities and stuff, and I think that's something that James has mentioned a couple times in previous videos, of just kind of the inherent creepiness of like birds and reptiles, where they have like an almost soullessness to them, that like if you watch like a predatory bird like tear something apart, there's something almost like mechanical about it. Like it's just absolutely just tearing something limb from limb, and it but there's no like, there's barely even any effort shown a lot of times it's great. It's horrifying. And I'll end with what I think would be I wouldn't necessarily say that this would be a scary movie, but a horror movie that I would love to see is something that stuck in my head for absolutely ages. There was a piece by, I want to say, Jed Taylor, the paleo artist, of a period piece dinosaur movie where it's like the Crystal Palace dinosaurs. And I love that idea. I think that the aesthetics of old school paleo art are super fun and horrifying and just wacky and crazy. And having a Victorian set horror movie with Victorian ideas of dinosaurs, I think would just be super fun and just a very interesting, like, never really done before, a unique take on like a period piece horror. But besides that, yeah, I think my mind also goes to like kind of a soft remake of The Lost World. Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, not the Jurassic Park one.
I agree with basically everything everyone has said. I think those are all great ideas. I think the only like other thoughts I have is I feel like there's a way to do Night at the Museum but horror. Like there's a way to incorporate that. And it's like there was a book that I read that tried to do it. And like the problem is that it was not a very well written book, but I think, and it had like this other plot to it that was kind of stupid and cringe, but like the idea was that this guy was hired as a paleontologist at a new museum. And like every night it was like he was going insane. He was seeing things and hearing things and felt like he like was being chased by stuff and he had no idea what the hell was going on. And the next day, like everything was fine and everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? And like that kind of idea, I think there's potential in like to be chased by either like not necessarily the mounts and stuff, but just like I think the idea was that they were ghosts almost of the animals in the museum. I don't know, but there's I think there's some version of that could be done well. Because I think that's it's the powerlessness comes in like literally, at least in the book, the premise is it's an academic working late at night. You don't have anything with you when you're late. You're working late at an institution because why would you? Because you're, where. So I think there's potential there. Or like the other idea I'm drawn to is either set in prehistory or just set, I think like during Old West Manifest Destiny type times, like it'd be fun to have people encounter some kind of Pleistocene critters in the woods somewhere, like Smilodon or something that's like close enough that it's not clear at first exactly what the animal is. Cause like, okay, it's a cougar, but it's not. I feel like there's something there. Or like, I didn't see the Out of Darkness movie, but my understanding is that the antagonist was not animals, which is disappointing because I think there's a lot of potential there as well with like early humanity dealing with the animals that we absolutely had to deal with on a regular basis. So, yeah.
If I recall correctly, in Out of Darkness, they don't even see any Pleistocene megafauna, right?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not alive.
Oh, okay.
Rip.
They come across a couple dead mammoths.
I see.
Yeah, that's lame.
The cultural image of the dinosaur, yes?
Yes.
What does this evoke in us?
Kind of awe and wonder and power
Certainly.
and stuff. Yeah.
I would say, ultimately, at the end of the day, what's frightening about a dinosaur is not necessarily that it's a big animal or a different kind of animal. I think, as Dalton said, you can do creature features, and you could do a fun creature feature with like a weird theropod dinosaur. But if you want to make a scary movie, you have to lean away from the dinosaur and you have to lean into the past. In that, I think culturally why dinosaurs are so evocative isn't this like the public snap in the mind is like, oh, it's cool that animals, these are weird animals. More like, hey, what the was going on in the past? Why? What is that? So the idea of the movie I had in my head, are you familiar with the Japanese film Pulse? I think it goes by Cairo.
I am not.
Okay, this is a film in which the world ends, basically, because ghosts haunt the internet. This is a very, very crude summarization of the plot.
Did this get an American remake as
It
Cell?
did. It's not as good.
Or
I don't think it's called Cell, but it did get
Cell
an
was
American...
a Stephen King novel.
Yes.
Yes, it did get an American remake.
Dead Zone, I think.
Yes, they have to abandon the cities and stuff. Anyway, so like the first half of this movie is very much like there are like disappearances and like moiders, and there's a weird, like there's this cool red room, which I won't spoil. Anyway, but yeah, very like slow build setup that things are like obviously going wrong. But no one knows why. And then the back half of the movie is like, bah-da. So I think probably the most effective use of a dinosaur in any kind of horror film is a movie. It's like shot from like some guy's point of view, some mom, somebody with like loved ones in a place. And what is happening is that inexplicably, and it's never directly stated, that just like the past is just like there's some kind of temporal, it doesn't matter, and the past is literally just bleeding into the current moment. Like people die, like people are dropping dead from bizarre like gas poisonings. Like there are diseases popping up that no one like has any idea of what to do with. Like people are appearing and like reappearing completely insane, that they're like, I was in like a forest and I walked for 10,000 miles and I never saw like a car or anything. And then just suddenly I got back here. And it is like the first half is not obvious what is happening, but these things are becoming more common. Like people in this woman's life are like showing up like completely out of their minds, because they're like, I woke up in like, you know, an ocean. I couldn't like, there were things I didn't understand, like, etc. Basically you build, and in the last 10 minutes, you get a little dinosaur, and it doesn't even have to be a theropod. Just that last 10-minute click of like, oh, the late Cretaceous is somehow like bleeding into the modern moment, and it's going to end the world. Something like that. And, you know, maybe as a treat, you could have it be a little meat-eating dinosaur at the end that like eats one of her kids or something. But like bleak, confusing, scary, bleak. The end. Because ultimately the past is an infinitely vast gulf of horror that we can't comprehend. We can attempt to. That's what we do as professionals, is we try to put little boxes around it. But that is antithetical to a horror film. The box has to be erased. Everything has to flow. So that would be my dinosaur horror movie.
I read a book like that once, kind of.
God damn it.
Thank you for that very good question, Goji.
Yes.
Oh God. This is the first.
This is the first question.
There's the first question, but I think the rest will go much faster.
A lot of the other ones are way shorter.
We're going to skip a few ahead, and we're going to cover everyone. Don't worry, but just in the order that they were written. The next one comes just from Regalius, who asks, what prehistoric creature would be the best horror movie monster? And we've kind of been talking about that a little bit. I'll go first this time, which is that I think entelodonts have a good and monstrous visage. I think they're pretty scary. The model of one at the Denver Museum scared me as a child. But in terms of making the best horror movie monster, I think it is very situational. Like an entelodont wouldn't be a great horror monster if you were in like the ocean. That's kind of very broad, like a no dust. That's like a no dust situation. But I think the context is going to matter. Like if you're trying to do something evocative of like Alien, where it's like a cramped environment, it's got to be something that fits in that environment, right? Like. But I think it's cliche perhaps, but predators are probably more suited to the role of horror movie monster in this sense. And theropods are dissimilar enough to modern predators where they have a monstrous quality that I don't think you would get out of like a saber-toothed cat or like a dire wolf or even like maybe like Andrewsarchus.
Andrewsarchus.
But I guess that's closely related to Entelodos, so who knows? That's my thoughts.
Dalton, when you said that, I also thought it was just like, oh, you think a shark is a good movie monster, but what if it was in space? The shark wouldn't be very good then.
It's true. What if I stayed on the land? I'll show you Jaws.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever I see like and basically anything about Jaws at this point, I think of the Ben Shapiro thing about like, wouldn't the people in this situation just sell their homes and move?
Oh, the H-bomber guy thing.
Yeah, but I'm like, yes, if a shark were killing everybody in my town in coastal New England, I would just move out of the town.
Well, I mean, also remember, isn't the plot of Jaws 4 that they find out that the shark has it out for a specific family?
Yes,
and then they move to Jamaica.
And the shark follows them to Jamaica.
And the shark feed them there.
Well, I don't think they move there. I think they just go on vacation. But
they go on vacation there. Okay.
Well, one of the sons, I think, lives there.
It does beat them, though.
It does beat them there, which is one of the funniest things.
Yes.
It's like, hey, if you find out that the shark has it out that there's a shark that has it out for a specific family, go to the Rockies.
Right.
Like
That's
our vacation to Yellowstone was not interrupted by the shark with a grudge.
That's like almost like, if competently done, that could almost be an incredible movie. Because who's going to believe you? Oh, a shark has it out for you?
I think, if I remember correctly, a big part of the movie is people kind of like...
I have not seen it.
Not like believing Elaine Brody or Ellen Brody that the shark has it out for them. They're like, this is ridiculous. And then the shark kills a bunch of people. They go to Jamaica.
And Michael Caine's in there.
Michael Caine is in it. Yep, it's a movie that bought him a house. He loves the house it built.
Yes.
God bless
the house
him.
that Jaws built.
Also, the actress who played Ducky in the original Land Before Time, who has the most tragic story in Hollywood.
No Ducky, no Ducky mentions.
We're not talking about Ducky. Sorry, Dalton. I'm sorry. Did you have more of an answer, or was that us?
No,
riffing on your prior answer?
I gave all my answers. It's your turn.
Sorry. Yes, I was confused for a moment. So again, I think theropods that are like roughly in the range of person sized are the best, just because they can kind of be in a building, and I think that helps, right? If there were a T-Rex trying to chase me, one, it's large enough that I'd know where it is all the time, and second, it's kind of the size differential, like Dalton says, is enough that like I could probably get into a drainage ditch or something and just hide, like a drainage pipe or something. Like it's not gonna learn to use an excavator to pull me out. If it does, I've got different problems.
Cooler problems,
perhaps, right? Or like, I'm in a basement right now. I could just stay in the basement. This is an entirely tractable scenario. But if you've got something that's like, I'd say the absolute largest is like an Alioramus type predator, or like real Dilophosaurus, something a little bit smaller than that, like a large Dromaeosaur, you're kind of in the territory where this is an animal that can like kind of crouch and get through a doorway, probably navigate a flight of stairs, if a little bit clumsily. I think that makes it scarier. It's something that's going to be able to fit into most places that you can fit. So with that stated, I think that those are kind of what I think would be the best for horror movie monsters. I kind of like an accurate Dilophosaurus, just because Dilophosaurus is such it's got an ugly face, right? It's ugly in the way that a horror movie monster should be. It's got like this awful kinked jaw with these big snaggle teeth. You can give it big hand claws. You could do something cool with the crests to make it like, kind of some sort of scary design or something that just looks cool. I think there's a lot you can play with. It says boo, yeah. And it's a primitive enough dinosaur that I also don't think you need to make it feathered like it should be. But I think you could also lean into like more primitive reptilian kind of design cues if you want to make something that is more traditionally considered scary. I think there's a lot to work with there. So Dilophosaurus is probably what I think, like an accurate one, I think would be plenty scary. You don't need to make it spit venom.
Yeah, indeed. Basically, my answer is essentially exactly what James nailed on the head of like, I think big enough where like fighting back is useless, but small enough where it can fit into spaces. So you can't run from it and you can't really hide from it that well. And like it also predatory is fun, and to kind of bounce off my answer earlier of that, like the kind of creepiness of some of these animals is like portrayed as alien enough to be just kind of inherently unsettling. My brain goes to, and I think I've talked about this in previous Q&As, the video from Wobbly Works of like Creature of the Night or something, or Night Creature, where it's a like someone being stalked by a dromaeosaur with a hand flare, and the way that is shot is so wonderfully creepy, of like incorporating the bird mannerisms and stuff into something that, like, at the beginning of the like little animation, like it's just a silhouette, it's a bipedal silhouette that's standing there that looks human enough but not exactly human, and then it just like cocks its head entirely 90 degrees very sharply, and it's like just kind of like very like, we don't expect animals to do this sort of thing. And with the like size and power of a large dromaeosaur, I think that like yeah, Jurassic Park got it right. Big raptors
they were a very good choice.
They were a very good choice. And like, I do think that like, I love the idea of a feathered raptor as a horror movie monster. I love the idea of kind of leaning into some of the influences from some of the scarier, more unsettling birds from nowadays. Like, even like have it be a bit more vulture inspired, give it a pretty ugly, mostly featherless or sparsely feathered head, make it really kind of gross and off-putting looking. Like, I think a lot of reconstructions of feathered dinosaurs, and especially feathered dromaeosaurs, while like being very good, and I really like them, lean a whole lot more like eagle and like falcon inspired, which I think are again lovely. But my mind goes to like Louis V. Ray's Deinonychus and stuff, where it has kind of a naked, kind of scrungly head, and it's just, they're just kind of gross. I think that would be really, really cool looking, and with like, and like add in some fun, speculative, but kind of horrifying behaviors of, and a lot of this is me saying, I know I've said this before, but like, I do love the idea of like a group of people like running from one of these things, managing to give it the slip for a little bit, and like running up a tree or climbing up a ladder or something like that, and kicking the ladder down and having a moment of respite, and then this thing backs off, like judges the distance, backs off, and then jumps up and wing assisted incline runs up the side of a building and grabs someone, or like on like the branches of a low tree or something, of just like, you aren't as safe as you thought you were. This thing is more maneuverable than you imagine it is. But I to not just say Jurassic Park did it right, I think, and it is almost like almost a reskin of that. Terror Bird would be fun.
Terror would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Something like Kalenkin or something like that. Like, I remember there's a scene from the like 10,000 BC movie that came out in like 2010 or something like that. That is a very bad movie, but the scene with the Terror Bird, pretty good.
It was a fun scene. I actually came up on my YouTube recommended recently for reasons I'm not really clear on, and I watched it recently.
Were you out trying to hunt the Manok?
I was.
Jesus, Dalton, deep cut.
I kind of like that movie. I watched. I remember watching it many times as a younger person.
I remember seeing it in the theater and having a good time.
I also saw, it was a friend's birthday party, and it was the first movie I saw with a group of people where I did enjoy it. Like, I don't have any delusions that it's like a groundbreaking work of cinema, but I remember liking it. And then thinking everybody else had liked it and getting out, and then learning very quickly nobody else liked that movie. And just trying to be like, that sucks. Yeah, it was awful.
Oh,
Boo's terrible.
Me just
no, I
sitting there
didn't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was like, I was like 13 years old, so I was just like, I think that the idea of building the pyramids with woolly mammoths as pack animals is kind of cool.
I like the Manok.
Anyway, it's somebody else's answer now.
Amelia, I think, right?
Yeah, I guess so, because neither of us wrote anything down. This is the which dinosaur would make the best monster question.
Or prehistoric animal.
Well, yeah.
Prehistoric animal. Okay, yeah. I was going to say, like, for a dinosaur, I think it is objectively some kind of large dromaeosaur, because, like, for all the reasons that everyone just said. There's no way to do... Like, the only way to do an herbivore that would be fun is if it could be rabid, but it can't because it's not a mammal. So, like, Anyway, other than that... I need to think about the thought that I just had that's completely left me.
It's all right, it happens.
No, okay, I got it. I think I agree, like, either a dromaeosaur or a similar, like, medium-ish theropod that's would be kind of fun. But if it alternatively, so, like, on that aspect, it's leaning into how it's very much an animal that we don't have anymore that's difficult to understand, which would extra work, like, kind of what we talked about earlier, depending on the time period or like the setting of the story in general. But I do also think, contrary to what someone, I think Scott said, that I think if it's something familiar but not quite like a Pleistocene animal, I think it could work, like whether it's a hyena or a direwolf or Smilodon. The only reason I don't think direwolf would work because it is just a wolf that's bigger. So it'd have to be like a Smilodon, or and I think it'd be more fun if it was one of the more, or not Smilodon, a saber-toothed cat, more broadly. I think it'd be more fun if it's one of the weirder looking ones, like Homotherium or something, where like that it doesn't look right. Like something is very wrong about it, which like I like it, to be clear. It's one of my favorite fossil mammals, I think, because it has this weird long face, and like I don't remember the artist, someone recently did a really good drawing of it, where it's off-putting in the way that large cats often are, where they just have big yellow eyes with little pupils, and and they're just kind of creepy, which like, yeah, they're meant to be. Not meant to be, it's just, they're off-putting animals. I think I've told the story where Alex and I were jump scared in Cincinnati at the zoo by a clouded leopard in the dark house. Because
I remember.
No. Oh, I know. You were really
the monkey part of my brain remembers.
Oh yeah, but like that's kind of the
back.
point. Like,
he feels two canines in the back of his skull, two through his eye sockets.
How your email finds me.
But anyway, like I think there's more potential in just cats as like large cats as antagonists that have been has been used in movies more broadly. On the other hand, I do also think that there's a version of a horror movie that happens like on the water of some kind, where you could have not necessarily mosasaurs, not to lean into that, but just like there's some weird in the oceans like that you could make use of. You could do like, even if it's like, I don't know how to pronounce it, the whale that's basically Leviathan or whatever.
Leviathan.
Like I think like a version of Moby Dick with that would be really fun, or like do something with Loch Ness. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a plesiosaur, but plesiosaurs are freaking weird. So I don't know, just potential. There's a lot. And that would be leaning more into when things are off-putting and hard to understand, especially if it's like set in a period of time where we really don't know anything about these animals.
Yeah.
I will speak now.
Speak now.
I am speaking. Everyone, it's time to listen. I'm speaking. No, I mean, my answer is essentially, thanks for laughing, Dalton. My answer is essentially the same as what my answer to the other one is, which is, a theropod seems like an obvious choice, or like a large terror bird. And this is not to say that it's not like a good choice. I think it can be. Or like a gross Pseudotsuchian. I don't think it should be anything like immediately recognizable. I think it should be something that does not exist in the fossil record, but definitely could. Like some gross, like bipedal pseudotsuchian, or like, I don't know, hyper specialized dromaeosaur that just we have no idea. Something like, just again, I kind of keep returning to this idea of like the past as like the unknowable alien void, right? Like, is a part of why Jurassic Park was not so like successful and spooky. It's not. It was basically showing people an alien past, right? Like, oh, the conception of like what dinosaurs had was very different. Blah blah blah. They're actually very scary.
You mean like how Jurassic Park was, not the movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I think if you want to scare people, like if it's going to be more than a cool creature feature, which doesn't have to be. I love creature features, but like I'm trying to think like to scare someone. I think it's got to be immediately unsettling. Like you don't have it. Like there's a shape to it. Like sure, like it's an animal, but like why is it here? Why does it look like that? God, maybe it shows up and it's like Triceratops. Turns out we don't really know. Like maybe it's a Triceratops. No, actually stupid. But something large, and maybe it gets immediately sick. It somehow appears in our like modern era, and it's just diseased. It's having a bad time. Maybe it wheezes all the time because it's coming from a different oxygen concentration. Like
probably a higher one too, so it probably would not or no, it would be a little bit lower.
It depends. Pull from the Triassic.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Possibly as compelling. Going to Dalton. Something he said earlier is I think if you did like a cool marine animal, like maybe a mosasaur, you play a little loose with like some kind of mosasaur. Like I'm not saying like make a monster, but I am saying like make something that like if we found it in the fossil record, it would be like a nature paper, but it would not be like a obvious hoax. If that makes sense.
I see what you're saying, although I'm going to I think there's one other thing that has come to my mind that I think one other way you could do it is really play into how not strange in appearance these animals are, but how their effect on people can be so unexpected. By which I mean, I guess just make it very violent. Like we're not used to predatory animals that are like larger than like draft horses that can actually move that quickly. Mm-hmm. That's inherently a pretty scary thing. Like, I mean, that's what they do with every horror movie monster, like the things in A Quiet Place, right? They wheel around way faster than they should for how big they are. And they destroy people immediately. And I think about most theropod teeth are serrated on both sides. They're labialingually compressed, so they're like knife-like. Oh. These are teeth that are designed to rip through meat. Mm-hmm. Right? And I've always had this idea in my head. This is something that, definitely played out in my head when I was trying to write something like in a creative sense for real. But having somebody trying to stop a dromaeosaur from biting them, they do the Chris Pratt motion. And it bites their forearm and it just severs all of the tendons in their hand. So their entire wrist just flops over and they can't use their fingers for the rest of the story. So, you know what I mean? Something where you go in, I think it's not exactly what you're saying, Alex, but I think that's another way to make them scary is just kind of lean into what they're actually like to some degree. That's a real thing. That's not even made up for Hollywood. That's what would happen if one of these animals bit you and ripped its head backward.
No.
Yeah. That's not something we ever encounter, right?
The only thing is super gore like that, really effective gore in a creature feature, just you run into the risk of it just being cool and fun.
No, but
I think there's a way to do it that it's not, though. Sorry, Scott, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. To your point here, James, of just kind of what animals are like, leaning into that behavior being inherently scary, and the gory and just kind of the violence of it being something that is in itself off-putting. I don't remember people being oh man, this is cool and rad at the scene in The Revenant.
And I was about to bring up The Revenant because, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Alex is a special breed.
It depends what you think of Leonardo DiCaprio's acting in that film, because I could not wait for that bear to eat him.
regardless of that, like the way that the scene is shot and the way that that animal behaves is like, if like I've had chats with people who've like witnessed actual bear attacks and been like, the most unrealistic thing about this is that it goes on so long. Is like a real bear attack is seconds, but it's like that's just bad for a movie. But like the way that bear behaves is just kind of like, yeah, that's just kind of what they do, and it's horrifying.
Now, I mean,
like I remember specifically, like the bit that made everyone just in my theater when I watched it just kind of go is when like he's on his stomach and the bear just starts digging at his back, and it's like, okay, gross, awful, heinous, like something like that, where it's like, or like the bit in Jurassic Park 3 that we've talked about before of the like the raptors being very violent in that, of like the whatever his name is crawling on the ground when the raptors like hold him down with the killing claw and stuff. That's rough. It's rough,
but I'm what I'm talking about though is like go to a level, like I think you can do a combination of the Revenant with the kind of like just kind of like naturalism of it to make it like not feel done up for Hollywood.
No.
But also, the Revenant pull like amazingly, having like if you've seen the Revenant, you may be surprised to hear me say this. They pulled back a lot from how horrific his injuries were. I think because it would be like very difficult to depict on camera. His back was ripped open to the point where you could see all of his ribs and his lungs moving under. Like, I mean, he was
cool,
really. Right, and I mean, like one thing they do, although they didn't really show it, is it also like ripped open his trachea, so he was just like his breath was like coming out the side of his windpipe, like halfway down the neck. And they have him like do the thing where he like tries to drink and it comes out the front of his throat for like some reason, even though that's not where the esophagus is. But like, I mean, he was in really bad shape, right? But you could do like the kind of hyper violence, and I don't know. I've seen parts of the movie Green Book. Or not Green Book, Green Room. Sorry.
What happened?
I didn't see Green Book, but I didn't expect that.
Yeah, the hyperviolence in Green Book.
I was talking about Green Room. I'm sorry, the one with Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
Which is like horribly violent in like ways that are just sickening. But I've never really seen anybody but the most, I guess, like desensitized people like saying like that was really cool, fun violence. Alex, what did you feel about Green Room when you saw it?
I thought Patrick Stewart gave a great performance. And I thought it was really good. No, Green Book's a little different. Green God damn it. You did it.
Yes.
You put this evil upon me, Ricky Bobby.
Green Book is where Aragorn destroys racism, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
do you know the fun thing about the character he's playing in Green Book?
What?
He's playing a real Italian-American man named Tony Lip, who then played Carmine Lupertazzi Sr. in The Sopranos.
Holy moly.
That actor is the character
that's
that Viggo
wild.
Mortensen plays. Yes, that's him. That's the same guy. Sorry, anyway. My Sopranos knowledge was triggered.
Green Room works, I think, because has anyone here ever seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yes.
Okay. Incredible movie. Possibly one of the most upsetting films ever made. I think there are 2 or 3 murders in the whole film.
And it's not the most violent.
No, and the most, I think probably one of the most effective on-screen slasher kills is basically Leatherface comes around a corner, Leatherface being the slasher, and just hits a guy with a like a hammer in the head, and he dies instantly. And it's like it happens in a second. And I was thinking about what James said, like with a bear attack. Oh, the one thing that they show you is that it's, I think if you did a bear attack and it was like over into like 5 seconds.
I said that. Yeah.
Or Scott said that. Sorry.
This is the 3rd time that someone has mistakenly attributed something to someone else. It's incredible.
Fine, don't worry about it. I think that is almost always a more upsetting and disturbing way to depict violence, is like sudden and over like that.
Yeah.
Like executions, stuff like that. The other scene of horror in A Texas Chainsaw Massacre is when she's at the dinner table. And that is a scene that's different. That's peril. She is not actually like, I don't think very seriously harmed in that scene, right? Like they're getting ready for the grandpa to like bleed her, right?
I thought you meant with the meat hook.
No, that's classic. But again, that's like just immediately on the hook and then you never see her again. I'm talking about the main, I forgot the character's name.
Yes, I will argue though that like the meat hook is one that whenever I revisit it, that I'm just like, I'm always surprised by how bloodless it is and how just like it's the performance and the implication of what is going on that is heinous. It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean the point here, I'll just get cut to the point here is that I think with like you're showing a grievous injury. Like that is a cool effect and it's a cool thing you're doing. And it's a lot of effort you're putting into something, which very rarely, like when the transformation happens in the thing and that guy's head turns into a spider, like there's the initial shock. And then I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone. And then my brain goes, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm not really scared. Like, I know it's like gross. I'm like, oh, this is gross. But I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I think if I saw a dinosaur bite someone's hand into ribbons, my gut instinct would go, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
We'll actually
Minecraft.
Get to this. We'll actually get to this in another answer as well. But I disagree on this a bit. But again, we'll get to this in a different answer.
I do too. And maybe we should move on to another question.
I think we should.
Dalton agrees.
I think so. And will we get to it in this answer? No, we won't. I'm not entirely sure which question you're referring to, but I can tell you, I know for certain it's not this one.
It's the what's the scariest thing that you've seen in a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
We get to it in that.
I see. This one comes to us from insert nickname, who asks, what is the most beautifully preserved specimen you have worked on? And I can answer that it's definitely the specimen of Parophysaurus poniensis that I presented on at Virtual SVP several years ago. That is a big work that will hopefully be coming out this year. And everyone can see that it's a gorgeous, nearly complete fossil. One of the most beautiful fossil lizards I've ever seen.
The dueling dinosaurs specimen is incredible. The Tyrannosaur is just one of the best fossils I've ever seen. And I mean, I've been spoiled. I've seen all the Gobi specimens that the AMNH collected, and those things are absolutely no slouch. But it's just almost otherworldly how pretty it is. It's truly, truly stunning.
I can't say my actual answer, but because it's something that is currently under active study. But my one tier down from that is the Basilosaurus isis that I worked on at Michigan. Because oh my gosh, that thing spoiled me. That thing is nearly 100% complete, and essentially entirely undeformed. It's wild how gorgeous that fossil is. Now, like the reason why I say it's a tier down is because I didn't do that much work on the actual fossil because I was 14 and Bill knew better than to give me some of that. Although, like, I mean, I did do quite a bit of molding and casting on that thing. But yeah, that's my answer. It's an absolutely stunning fossil, and there was a National Geographic article about it back in the August 2010 issue, where there are some stunning pictures of it. And one of my favorite ones is after they brought the thing back, and after it was all fully prepped, they laid the entire animal out in the rotunda of our museum, and the story that I heard was very fun of that. Like it was going one way and then they hit a wall and they had to curl it around and then it kept going that way. And then it was too long and it hit a wall again and they had to curl it back around the other way. So this whole thing is serpentined around like twice in this rotunda. It's a gorgeous picture. I'll find it and I'll share it in our group. because stunning animal. And it's not even one of the big Basilosauruses. I think they get like a bit bigger than that, which is wild as well.
I've been trying to think of which ones, because like with mosasaurs, I'm fortunate to have several to choose from. I think probably the best one is also one that I cannot talk about. After that, it's either, in terms of things that I've actually been like blown away by, I think it's one of them is there's a Mosasaurus skull on display in Brussels that is like almost uncrushed and like this gorgeous like chocolate brown color, completely articulated, except for like the back half of the head exploded, but that doesn't matter because we've got a bunch of those. It's got the entire like anterior palate, which in Mosasaurs is like rarely preserved, articulated and in good condition like that one is. And it's just freaking insane. And I think the other one is like one or two of the Clydastes at Yale are just like really incredible.
Oh yeah, we've got some gorgeous
like,
ones.
They're just gorgeous. Like it's like they're a really nice color. They like are articulated and just really pretty. And the Tylosaurus on display at the AMNH, like as pretty as it is behind glass, when we had the glass taken off, like James was there and can attest to this. I can't explain it. Somehow it had like, it all of a sudden had like even more presence to it. Like it was, oh, this is a whole skeleton, basically. It's missing like the tips of its fingers and the tip of its tail. But like it's got the windpipe, and then it's even got the part of the windpipe that bifurcates into the two bronchi. It's got a parallel like series of tracheal rings that I'd never like. Oh yeah, I'd never noticed it before. I'd never noticed that before.
That's
I found a
cool.
bite mark on its jaw that no one had ever mentioned or noticed. You don't like normally see those things, but just like, and also it's like that. It's a very particular kind of like Kansas chalk preservation that is like gorgeous. It's like the same as some of those Clydastes where like we're losing Dalton to the fluff. I'm sorry. It's a particular, like a lot of the Kansas fossils are like, they're hit or miss and they vary in color and texture and stuff, but it's one of them like the Yale Clydastes ones that are like chocolate brown, perfectly smooth, like just gorgeous, phenomenal. And then just the cartilage and everything else was something else.
That I've worked on. I get the Gobi stuff. Some of the Gobi preservation makes me want to weep. It's so beautiful. Oh, that's so hard. I mean, because I've got like palettes from like iconically well-preserved specimen, like really nice stuff. But I don't know. That's like I requested someone send me CT data. I don't think I count that. I think I have to have touched it with my hands for it to count. Is my opinion. Yeah. So some of the AMNH Velociraptor stuff is definitely goated.
Yeah, it's some beautiful specimens
with
there,
the sauce.
right?
But I mean, like in an answer we can sort of keep because I will make it not specific. I have seen things at the IVPP you people wouldn't believe. Some of which I've touched and work on, and am working on.
Well, those are some wonderful fossils as an answer to a wonderful question.
I would.
Our next.
Sorry, I just to amend because I thought about it. The skull of Jungersuchus is so beautifully preserved. Go look at my paper and go look at the nice cross sections of the CT scan. Look at the contrast. You can see all the gross little parts of its brain case. It's pretty cool. I didn't realize like that was basically the first fossil I worked on, and it completely ruined my expectations.
Yeah.
I remember having a little moment where I was at a museum collection, and I was used to working on only Gobi stuff, and I was looking at a fossil that I've now learned is a very well-preserved fossil in the grand scheme of things, and I described it as, it's kind of a specimen, which was, let's say, a huge faux pas, and I'm very happy that museum has allowed me to come back and
you said that to someone?
To one of the collections managers, yes.
Oh, Jimbo.
I will not say where.
Where was this?
No, I wouldn't ask.
Amelia, you were present, is what I'll say.
All right. Well, our next question comes to us from RyanWantsToDie, who asks, What's the scariest / weirdest dream you've ever had, whether it be related to the channel, your career, or something else? I'll start. Which is I don't know if I could like offhand remember the scariest dream I ever had. I guess actually in this moment I would say there, like, if you consider it a dream, the times where I've had sleep paralysis have been the scariest dreams I've ever had. Which aren't they aren't involved. It's just like knowing that there's something in the room that is going to get you and you can't do anything about it. It's truly horrifying. I hated it. But what I've written down and what I'll say in this is that they aren't perhaps the scariest dreams I've ever had, but in terms of scary dreams that I have, I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'd say frequently, but frequently enough that like I know it's a pattern of dream that I have. Is that I'll dream that I'm driving a car. Usually it's along some kind of winding cliffside road, or like a very narrow road with like cliffs on either side. And I'll just be driving way too fast and be like completely losing control of the vehicle. And like, it's just awful. But that's the one that happens the most often where I'm like, oh, I had one of those like driving fast in an uncontrollable car dreams. And that's my answer.
I have not infrequently had dreams where like there's something upsetting happening, but more than like, I don't think I've had like since I was a kid probably like a like classic nightmare where there's like a thing in it that's scary to me, like a monster or something like that. You know what I mean, right? Where it's like, oh, you wake up and you're like, oh my god, that was so scary. What I have had are very upsetting dreams that are like some kind of real world situation, like like loss of a loved one or like being cheated on or something like that. But it's like in the way that the dream happens, it's always kind of vaguely in slow motion. And I'm like acutely aware of the fact that I'm powerless to stop anything from happening while I'm watching it. That sort of thing.
That's
where
a
it's
nightmare.
just like, yeah, no, I mean, like, I know it's a nightmare, but what I'm saying is like, I've never had like at least not since I was a young kid, like a scary dream where it's like, oh my god, there was an object or a being that I was really scared of. It's more like
It's
real
a
world
ghoul.
situation, right? It's just like oh yes, isn't the idea of being powerless to stop negative things in your life from happening very scary? So I have those occasionally. I had sleep paralysis once also and felt no dread at all. I just woke up and I was like, I can't move. And then I was like, this is sleep paralysis. I better not dream about anything scary.
So, James, are you done?
I am done. Sorry.
Okay. So, I basically never dream.
Concerning.
This is probably because I have sleep apnea and I'm not actually getting into that deep of a sleep. And I'm seeing a doctor about it tomorrow.
Oh, hey.
Oh my god, the next message like a week from now, Scott's gonna be like, those are what dreams are.
I thought this was a fictional concept.
like genuinely, it's something that happens to me less than once a month that I actually like wake up knowing that I've had dreams.
Wow.
I will I have had a couple like the closest to a recurring dream I've had is I've had like a handful of times that I've dreamt that at the end of a prep project I found out that something had soft tissue all over it and I had no idea and I prepped all through it. And it's just this absolute, just soul crushing, just despair setting in of like, I ruined it. I put all this work into it and I ruined it. But the air quotes scariest dream I ever had was a very weird one. I don't know if this counts as a night terror or something like that or a different thing. It was an entirely like visionless dream of just an overwhelming and building sense of dread. That was it. It was There was no visuals associated with it. There was no specific sensory input with it. It was back when I was in ROTC. And I was just terrified of something. I think I was worried that I would like oversleep an important deadline or something. And I was just, every time I was I was starting to fall asleep, I was just getting insanely like terrified of it. It might have been a panic attack. I don't know. I've never had anything like this before or since. And it was just like, I woke up like 10 or 15 times that night. It was like, I could not be asleep for more than like a half hour.
That sounds miserable.
It was so bad.
Do you think this was your sleep apnea, like near death happening every time?
No, because that has happened since, and that was different.
No, I know. I was just making a joke at your expense about your medical
about your health.
Usually, like, at least, like, I say I used to dream more than I do now, and I'm sure that's some consequence of stress in grad school and shit, because, like, once I started taking melatonin, I started to dreaming, and I was like, oh, cool. But the two reoccurring things it's not, like, classic nightmare shit, I don't think. Like, the recurring situations is there's some kind of either natural or otherwise disaster happening or imminently going to happen, and I need to, like, get back to somewhere. Or the ones that, like, bother me more are ones that are just kind of, like, benign but bad realistic things. Like, one of the more recent ones that I remember was, like, something happened to my cat. I don't know. He's prone to happening to him because he loves to make me spend money on taking him to the vet. And I don't remember what it was, but I remember they're the ones where I wake up and, like, I can't really tell if that was real or not, like, if it was a dream or not, because they're, like, realistic enough. And, like, they kind of phase into waking up somehow. Sometimes, like, it's just, they're really annoying because then I wake up freaking out and need to assess that whatever I dreamt about is not actually, real. I don't like those. I don't know that counts as a nightmare, but because they're usually not, like, scary per se. But I've had those more than once. I remember what it was. He got outside. Like, it was like something like that. Anyway, sorry.
No stress dreams. Dreams are your
your
connection to the sublime. And I
dreams are
will not be sharing my most upsetting dreams on a YouTube channel. There are entire genres of upsetting dreams I have, none of which are appropriate to share with our audience.
Oh my.
I will tell you, I will go into the night terror, sleep paralysis camp, though, in that I've also, in the past, knock on wood, I haven't had one in, like, I'm going to one tonight because I'm saying this, which is so stupid. But in at least, like, a year and a half, I have not been visited by the sleep paralysis. And I see stuff when I didn't always. I used to just get the bad feeling, but I think if it happens to you enough, like, you start to see stuff. I usually see a big, like, shadow in the upper corner of my room over my apartment door. It's just, like, darker than the rest of the room, and then it moves.
Oh, that's just me.
Oh, it's just Dalton. Get out of there. Then it moves really fast towards me, and either that's enough that I am jolted awake, or then it just kind of, like, hovers over the back of my the end of my bed, and I can't move. I've only had that happen, like, once. And I made a Halloween costume that was kind of an interpretation of what that figure looked like. I put a little razzle dazzle on it to give it a little more.
Alex, you did a Halloween costume of something that came to you in a dream.
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's pretty good. I got pictures of it.
It's a good costume.
It's like those like those featureless like play masks that are just, like, white plastic.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, the thing is basically it's always looking at you. So it seems like it has like two faces. But so what I did for a Halloween costume was I got two of those masks and like a black face mask and like under stuff. And basically I would just pull that over the head and then I would paint them. One was white, one was black for a little fun. It's all dark in the dream or in the paralysis or whatever. And then I put those on the sides of my head. And that way it always looked like, and it was fun because we were handing out candy when I did it. And I would like have one face turn to someone, but I'd be looking that way. And I would be completely still and not say anything. And then I would turn my head a little bit. And they would see both faces. And this got multiple children to react negatively and several adults.
A lot of parents. A lot of people like, oh, I don't like that. It was really great because I was just dressed as Kylo Ren and I had my like Disney Parks lightsaber, which people were enjoying that. And then Alex was standing completely still and just like would turn his head and scare people. It was awesome.
I think I put deer antlers on it. When I saw it, it didn't really have deer antlers. It had like weird hair or something. Anyway, that's the point. Yeah, I have lots of good dreams, but I think the price for that is then I also have like a whole mess of less good dreams. And some of them are like, like stress dreams where it's like, sometimes yeah. I can share this one. This is not the worst dream I've ever had, but it is one where I always wake up and feel so much better, which is like, you have a math exam tomorrow. And I wake up and I say, I never have to take math again.
We'll move on to the next question now, and as we do, I will regale another bad dream that I have semi-frequently that just I remembered is that I'll often have dreams where I'm in charge of taking care of like many different reptiles, or I'll have like a ton of different like reptile tanks in my house, and then something horrible will happen. Like I'm not afraid of venom, like I'm not afraid of snakes, and I'm not even really afraid of venomous snakes. I don't go out of my way to interact with them, but like. If I've been very close to rattlesnakes before and it's just like, that's chill. That's fine. Whatever. Like, just don't like mess with it and it's going to be fine. But I'll have dreams where like venomous snakes will bite me. They'll escape from their enclosures, or even more often is I'll go to check on the reptiles and like what should be full of lizards. There's like a bunch of snakes attacking the lizards, or there'll be like full of bugs that have like gotten in and like are killing things. And it's just like this kind of animal chaos of bugs and snakes and lizards. And I'm like, I love snakes and lizards. I actually don't love bugs in real life. So that makes sense that that's part of the nightmare, but they're very strange and bizarre. And I had one particular variety, which I won't go into detail of here, that was really disturbing. But
when we're not filming, I want to hear.
I'll tell you when we're not filming,
go into detail about the ones you can't talk about.
I will do so because it's very strange. But our next question comes to us from Dinodom, who asks, have any members of the crew had a supernatural encounter or anything that you feel weirdly superstitious about? And I will answer this, that I have had several encounters in my life that I would consider ghostly in nature, that stretch the bounds of what I would consider the traditional understanding of reality. Two of them happened while I was growing up, once outside and then once in an older house, where I was outside, like doing chalk art on our front porch. And like, as I was drawing, I like was moving my hand to draw the chalk and it just went through, there was like a very pale bare foot. Then it just like, I like passed through the foot and I was like, whoa. And I looked up and there was no one there.
Oh, pardon me, Ghosty.
Oh.
Then when I was in a house, this house I was in, now this one, I'm less like sure of myself in this experience. And because I had been told previously there were ghosts and that this house was haunted, which influences, I'm sure, how you perceive these things. But I went to the bathroom and the bathroom was bizarrely long. And so you would enter and on your left was like the sinks and the mirrors. And then it was also a carpeted bathroom. So a strange environment, nevertheless.
That's the haunted aspect.
That was the haunted aspect. It was carpeted up till like the area of the toilet had like a little like runner, and then it was tile right next to the toilet. But it was like bathroom, bathtub, no shower, and then clear down at the other end is the toilet. And I like didn't like to go in that room anyway. It freaked me out. And I went in and I looked over at the toilet and didn't see anything. But then when I looked in the mirror, I saw like a shadowy figure next to the toilet. Didn't love that. And then the last kind of paranormal encounter I had was at the Stanley Hotel. We went on the ghost tour And we had a few very strange things happen on the ghost tour at the Stanley Hotel. They have a room where there's supposedly a ghost of like a more playful ghost, and they give you like dumb lollipops and have you put them in their hand. They're like, like sometimes they'll knock them over. And I was like, well, we'll see what happens here. Like, I'm not expecting anything to happen. And this lollipop was not like knocked over and like it was like very slowly like it was like someone took a finger and was like pushing this down into my hand. It was very bizarre. We also had some very strange photos come up including one that we took in a dark room. But the photograph was not of it wasn't like a black photo of like a clearly dark room. It just had no pixels. It was just completely black, full black value pixels. There was a photo of within our group because they encourage you to just like take photos all the time. And they're like, you never know when a photo might have something weird in it. And lo and behold, one of the photos of our group had a bald man in the back. And there were no bald people in our tour group. So some strange happenings have happened, and I'm not, I'm a man of science. I consider myself a man of science, but like there are things that have happened to me that I cannot easily explain. I also would say though that I am maybe more superstitious than I'm proud to admit. I think partly because of brain reasons. But also I am like, because of that, I am innately like, I'm not interested in like prophecy or like palm reading or tarot cards. Like I don't want to be read. I don't want to, like, I don't mess with Ouija boards. I'm like, I'm not saying these things are real or not real, but if they are, they're very clearly forces not to be like messed with. And I'm fine to leave that alone.
I have had a number of experiences that I can't explain either. And I'm not going to talk about several of them here because they were deeply unsettling to me in ways I don't want to talk about with our patrons. But that's okay. Nothing too traumatizing. But one that I think did kind of stick with me because, like Dalton said, you tend to notice things if you're primed to think about them, and I was not primed to think about them, was we were staying at a hotel in Cape May, New Jersey, which is apparently well known to be this haunted hotel. And the story goes that the hotel is like quite haunted, and one of the main hauntings is that there was like at some point, like around the turn of the century, there was a family there. It was a wealthy family, and they had like it was the husband, the wife, a couple kids, and like the nanny or governess or whatever they would have called her, whose job it was to watch the kids. And one day, like she lost track of the children during the morning, and the children all ran across the street right to the ocean in New Jersey. It's on the Jersey Shore, and they all drowned. And then the governess hung herself in the hotel room out of like shame. And what was interesting is my mom and I learned this story, or it was my whole family, but my mom and I are the ones who experienced things. We learned this story at like basically as we were checking out, like day of checkout. I think we did a ghost tour before like heading back home. So we had not heard any of this shit before. And I had seen the morning before we checked out some like woman going around the hallway, like frantically, like opening different doors, going into different rooms, like she was looking for something, which is apparently the manifestation of people who see the ghost of the governess. And my mother, in the middle of the night, had heard the sound of a bunch of children running through the hallways playing, and like said that she like woke up enough that she was like going to go to the front desk and complain that people were letting their kids play in the hallway in the middle of the night. Both of those are the like classic manifestations of this stuff. And so like, I don't know. It's possible there were kids playing in the hallway, and it's possible I saw somebody who worked at the hotel looking for something that like a guest had left in a room. But it was very eerie to us that we learned what the like normal vision is and have both experienced something. And we're like, yeah. Anyway, like Dalton, I'm not proud of how much like kind of credulity I give to this stuff because I often feel like it really runs counter to the fact that I try to be a man of science. But I don't know. I also don't think it's impossible that there are a lot of things out there that we don't fully understand yet. I'm sure that the experiences we consider paranormal, if they are real experiences or real things that don't have a normal explanation, will turn out to have some sort of scientific explanation, just like the fact that X-rays exist and we didn't know about them for a long time. Like, I don't know.
Ghost rays.
Or like, I don't know. I've heard people suggest quantum entanglement as some like thing of like, something going on with atoms that we can't really understand, but like you get quantumly entangled. I don't know.
Sure.
Just like that's a lot of stuff out there we can't really deal with right now.
Yeah.
I'm not professing to have an explanation for anything.
I'm not
yeah.
suggesting you do.
Well, actually, I do. I know exactly what's going on, and if you buy my course, I'll tell you about it.
Amelia or Scott?
Well, Scott has a written answer.
Yes. And my written answer is
No.
I've never experienced anything that I would even classify as partially supernatural, and I am not superstitious in the slightest.
He is better than us.
Nope, absolutely nothing. And not even something that I even thought for a little bit outside of like being a little kid and having a nightmare after I watched a horror movie that I wasn't supposed to see. But like, yep, that's it.
Cool. Amelia.
I think I only have one. I have two brief things that are not happened to me, but like family related. And like one of them is just with the note that James said that some of these things like are eventually explained. Like there's a thing in northern Wisconsin. I haven't gone to see it, but a bunch of my cousins have, called the Paulding light, that has now been explained as just like, I don't know if it's some gas light interaction, whatever. It's this weird light that would just like show up and float and stuff and freak people out. Until
Cool.
Semi recently, which is pretty cool. The other one was a story that apparently my dad was told because he would work on his uncle's farm in the summer. And this is a farm that now like they grow like vegetables and stuff, but they don't have animals there anymore. But every year over Labor Day weekend, they have a big party at the farm. So that's how I've been there before. And I never saw anything about it, but they kept us out of the barn by telling us that it was haunted because there was like, I don't remember if it was a kid or some guy milking the cows one time got like kicked in the head, and he would show up with his flattened, smashed head and like as a ghost. And it's like, I think that was just to keep people out of the barn. But still like upsetting. And I didn't like the barn because of that. It was always closed and dark and freaky. So I stayed away from it. But in my last year at Carthage, I rented a room in a house with a couple other students, one of them being my friend Brady, who has made appearances, I think, in stories on this channel before. I rented the attic of the house. There were 4 bedrooms in the lower part of the house. Like there were 2 on the main floor, 2 in the basement, and then the attic. And I got the attic. And it was towards the end of the year. And I don't even remember what happened. If it was just like something fell off my bookcase or just something very odd that like I was in bed or playing video games or whatever and completely nowhere near the bookcase and something like fell out of it. I don't entirely remember. And like the next day, I think I told this to Brady. And Brady had lived in this house the year before. And Brady's like, "Oh yeah, that's the ghost." I'm like, "What? Do you mean the ghost?" He's like, "Yeah, there's a ghost that lives in the attic. The last girl that lived here she had a book fly off the shelf. She had a candle explode. She rattles off all these things that happen." I'm like, "Brady, why would you tell me this?" Like, we're renting this house for like 1 more month. And now like I wouldn't say like I believe in this kind of stuff. I know my own explanation for why I can get riled up about it is anxiety, because I do have that. And so like, it's just, it's a thing to be worried about. And so my brain takes that and runs with it. And so I can be agitated around things that are said to be haunted or whatever. Not because realistically I think anything's going to happen, but like, because I have anxiety. So like my mind does the spiral thing. Anyway, which like I was expecting to happen. I did a ghost tour in DC like a while ago, and they told us the hotel was haunted, and some of the other students said they saw things, but like I never did. So yeah, not much, but one thing that I cannot remember, but then, whatever Brady said, which I do trust Brady. So what if something was in that house? I don't freaking know, but yeah.
Something in that house ain't right.
Yeah.
Oh, my bones.
Are they haunted?
Yes, my bones are haunted, Dalton. Thank you. I'm supposed to answer a question.
Yes.
I refuse. No. I don't think I've seen any ghosty stuff. And some of the stranger experience. So like, yeah, I mean, some of the sleep paralysis stuff feels real at the time. But if I can see that and I know it's a dream, like I could be convinced anything I could see was a hallucination. That being said, there are some things that I won't share because they're personal. But there's one kind of fun one, which I thought was a dream, to find out years later was not a dream, or not all a dream. I have a very vibrant memory of being a young kiddo, maybe like not that young, maybe like 10. At the end of the street that I grew up on, there's a big dock. And it's like a wooden jetty that goes out into this Long Island Sound. And I had like this memory of it being late August, and I walked out there and the sun was going down and the water under the dock was full of fish. Like just fish I had never seen before, like weird looking big fish. And like there were crabs all over the place. And I was totally sure that that was a dream. And then maybe 4 years ago, I brought this up to my mom and she's like, no, you came back to the house and were like, tried to show us.
Huh.
And we went down and there weren't a bunch of fish. And we thought for a short amount of time that you might have lost your mind or were playing a joke on us.
Huh.
So that's
Strange.
that's one of that's I guess that would be my encounter with the strange. I don't know, maybe it was just some weird fish came up for a second, but it's not like it's like 20, 25 feet deep. Like,
Having been there's not a lot of space for fish to hide there.
no, yeah, exactly.
No.
I mean, the water's muddy, but it's the sound. Anyway, so yeah, that was an encounter with the odd, strange, and queer I had.
Well, thank you for that fascinating question. Our next question comes to us from Life Finds a Way, who asks, is a particular notable museum known to be the most, quote, haunted? Any personal stories? I can't think of any that have that reputation and don't have any stories. Sometimes it can be creepy being alone in the collections if you're alone. But that's more so just like kind of how old they are or how like what the space is like. And sometimes like newer automatic lights just turn off, which is startling, but it's not, not haunted.
Not scary. Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
So yeah, like I'm not aware of any museums that have a reputation for being haunted, but if any of them are, it's definitely the AMNH, just because of how many people have been associated with that building through the years. Like it is old; it's been there forever. Like I don't know. I'm pretty sure when James was still here, we joked that the ghost of Osborne was creating havoc, and
We did,
like,
and I'm sure it is.
Yeah. I'm sure it is. Yeah, like it's just and like. Even in the paleo department, like there's objects tied to these people, these old curators and stuff. We have a death mask in collections of somebody.
Yeah, no, it's in the prep lab. It's the death mask of Joseph Leidy.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got the death mask of Joseph Leidy. We've got some hand and foot casts of other people as well. Like there are just some objects in that museum that are strange. Like, and they're not what you'd expect. For example, the death mask of Joseph Leidy.
All my homies have the death mask of Joseph Leidy.
Next question.
Yes, of course, sir. Of course. Our next question comes to us from Mayday, who's asking a follow-up on the museum, the mosquito extinction question. What do you think of public orders mandating the killing of invasive species like spotted lanternflies? I'm a bit torn on them. On the one hand, I do think they encourage people to be aware of the natural world that's around them, which is a good thing to be. And the effect that people have on it by introducing invasive species, I think that's also good. I think it's probably a more compelling way of getting environmental ideas across because it's very observable and tangible. If you're like, hey, watch out for these things, like you can see them and do something about it. And it's more real than like climate change, which is real, don't get me wrong, but it's more perceptible on like a day-to-day basis of, hey, I saw the spotted lanternfly, as opposed to every year it's getting hotter and hotter.
More
which we
tangible,
do
I guess.
Yeah, we notice it, but we don't. I mean, it's harder to notice. Yeah. But on the other hand, I really don't know how effective they are. And my gut tells me that if you're at the point where you're trying to like rally the public to do something about this problem, my gut would say that it's too out of hand to really handle, especially in that way. But I don't have the data on it. I don't know if it exists, although I think Scott might have something to say about that. I just don't know. For me, I think I'm of the mind that it is maybe, I wonder if it pushes too much of a curatorial view of conservation, of like, we have to keep things exactly as they are right now, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Like, where do we draw the line of like, this is what we have to achieve in terms of like managing ecosystems. And I think it might be healthier and more productive to be like, these are perpetually changing systems, and like, there's ways we can reduce our harmful impact, but like, there's also ways that we can't, and maybe we have to make peace with some of that. And inspired by what James wrote, I wonder if how humane these endeavors can be. I wonder if it encourages people to treat animals with unnecessary cruelty. Like for spotted lanternflies, it's maybe one thing, because I feel like if you squish a bug, I don't love to squish a bug, but I've done it and I will do it again. Like it's a pretty instantaneous, like if you don't ruin it, right, it can be a pretty instantaneous, and I would say maybe humane like death. But I also have heard of people, who like are part of the invasive python culls in the Everglades that are just like unnecessarily cruel to the animals. Like, I understand that the goal is to get them out of the ecosystem and that they are causing harm, and that's unfortunate, but they're not doing it maliciously. They're just doing their thing. They're just animals. Like, they do deserve some respect and humane treatment as much as possible. Those are my thoughts.
To add to what Dalton said, just because he referenced what I wrote, like, I just find it disquieting how enthusiastic I see so many people be about these culls of invasive species. Like, I don't know, going out into the Everglades like you're Rambo to like hack the heads off of invasive pythons, or hunting feral hogs from helicopter with an AR-15. Like, I don't know. There's a degree to which it feels like these things often veer into like kind of power fantasy in a way that I find like odd, maybe, and a little alarming. That said, I mean, there is some degree of management that I know is necessary, and like especially in the case that you have an organism that is objectively destroying part of the environment. Like, I think of zebra mussels like just clogging waterways and kind of choking everything else out. Or like kudzu, I guess. Like these things where it's like, yeah, like this is the sort of thing where left unchecked, it will kill everything else. I'm more amenable than to like, there's this thing that was accidentally introduced in the environment and it shouldn't be there, so everybody now gets carte blanche to kill them however they want to. Which, I don't know. I don't think everybody involved in doing that stuff is doing it in a bad way, but I've certainly seen ones where it makes me feel very weird about the entire thing.
That's not very democratic of you.
Right. But you know what? Helldivers 2 is a fun video game, but if the Terminids were real, I probably wouldn't be so happy with what we were doing on 4A Prime.
What are you talking about? The game is just about having fun. There's nothing...
Oh, right. There's no message.
There's no message.
Right, it's not woke.
The only message of Helldivers 2 is that George Bush was the best president ever, and the Iraq War was cool. No, joking, satire. That's the satire, folks.
So I wanted to consult with someone who would know more about this situation than I would. So I contacted my friend and fellow YouTuber of Wildlife Wire fame, Dom. So Dom has done a lot of work with conservation and extant animal ecology and stuff. And so he's way more qualified to answer this than we are.
Yes.
So basically, and he brought up some interesting points that I had not considered. Namely, that management efforts like this are almost like they are pretty much always done best by dedicated experts. And professional managers for a couple reasons. One, like James was saying, not necessarily in the like perverse enjoyment out of it, but sometimes feral and invasive animals can, like, the hunting of them can become a revenue stream and can become something that is encouraged, which means that it's not, oh, we need to get rid of these feral hogs. It's, oh, I need to keep a good population of these feral hogs around so I can charge people to hunt them from a helicopter and live out that crazy power fantasy. So it removes that incentive. There is also there is also a situation talking about like people in the Everglades being cruel to snakes and stuff. Sometimes these popular efforts have the unintended consequence of people don't know what animals look like and are just killing every snake or killing every lizard and stuff. So that people can be well-meaning and doing way more harm. There are some times where having more hands can actually be helpful, but it really depends on what animal it is, exactly, like the type of management that is needed, and like how extensive this problem is. That, like, I brought up to Dom, I was just like, the spotted lanternflies are a good example of that. Like, they're distinct enough from everything else in the ecosystem that, like, I had friends when I was in New York that, like, they're not biology people at all, and they're able to spot a spotted lanternfly, no pun intended. Yeah, it's something that is really on a case-by-case situation. But these efforts can help a lot. Like feral hogs, for example, are apparently responsible for like 30% of the nest raids on ground nesting birds in the areas where they're a problem. So, like, they're actually having a pretty substantial effect on the ecosystem of those native birds. So, like, it's something that, like, needs, like, a lot of the time this stuff needs to be done, but it's more like it would be best done by funding wildlife management folks.
Right. And I mean, listen, that also gets into the issue of, like, I mean, there was a paper I saw a couple of years ago now that made a very interesting case that feral hogs are not actually doing ecosystem damage. It's that they are restoring an ecosystem function that has been lost for long enough that we don't think it's supposed to be there. Mostly with vegetation disturbance. It didn't really deal with, like, raids on nests of ground-dwelling birds. But it was like, in the short term, yes, it winds up, like, uprooting a lot of vegetation and doing these things that look like they're degrading. But over a longer time scale, they're actually kind of restoring a more natural ecosystem, because there's like all of these empty niches. And there were interesting examples as well with, like, feral burrows, like, which tend to do a lot of interesting, like, reworking around water sources. And I don't really remember the details enough to speak intelligently on it, so I won't discuss it further here. But I just think it's also the sort of thing where, like, I don't know, the feral hog situation's tricky. Like, they are dangerous to people also. Like, I'm not going to pretend that they're not, and I'm not going to be like, I don't want it to come across like I'm just like, oh, but the poor pigs. Like, yeah, I do feel bad for them when a bunch of, like, good old boys are hunting them from helicopters, like a force they can't comprehend is killing them from the sky. Like, you know, if they were sentient, they would probably form a religion about that experience. But, you know, like, they're dangerous to people. They're dangerous to pets. They do have negative effects on a lot of the surrounding native wildlife. So, like, yeah, they have to be managed to some degree. Does that mean they have to be fully exterminated? Right? Like, yes, or, you know, it gets into a more interesting discussion. I also just want to make it clear to anybody watching, I'm not actually anti-hunting. I think it might sound that way from what I'm saying here. I'm actually very, very pro hunting, and think that it's a very good way for many people to engage with the world that they live in and nature in general. I know that hunters are often dedicated conservationists. I don't personally hunt, although that's something I would like to change. So I'm not anti-hunting, and I'm not opposed to the idea of killing an animal in general. It's the over the top, like, you know, it's clearly like there are some people who I've seen on, like, social media who are clearly pretending that the animals are people. And
we know who this person is.
I'm not even talking about him. And that, I find that just disquieting. And I would humbly encourage that the person just download Helldivers 2, which is a much better way to process those feelings.
But thank you for that question. It's interesting to think about the modern world every once in a while.
Indeed it is.
Our next question comes to us from King Zasshu, who asks, what would be the components of your very own Frankenstein's monster dinosaur hybrid? For me, I wouldn't make one. But to answer the question and to play in the space, it depends on the goal, I think. If it's in terms of creature design and just like aesthetics, I don't actually know if I could beat the Chaos Theory Ultimasaurus in terms of like combining cool aspects of animals into a cooler looking animal. Yeah. It's very cool looking. They did a good job with the Ultimasaurus. It's stupid, but it's cool. In terms of something that's like, if you're trying to be more in the oeuvre of actual Frankenstein's monster and make something that's kind of disturbing and a bit pathetic, probably mixing things that have like very bizarre proportions into something strange. Like what came to mind immediately was like a Spinosaurus and a Therizinosaurus, where it's like the parts clearly don't like work well with one another, and you end up with something that's just not right from a distance, even when you look at it. That was my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't find, I just like, as I'm sure will surprise none of our viewers, I've never found the idea of doing, like a hybrid dinosaur just that interesting. Like, it's not I don't get why movies are now obsessed with this as like, this is the only thing we can do is make them hybrids. However, if you're doing that, I think mixing in elements from other kinds of animal that you don't normally find in a dinosaur is usually better than mixing two dinosaurs together, at least in my mind. So like a T-Rex that is otherwise very T-Rex-like, but has like a fully opposable thumb and palatal teeth, I think would be a much more effective, like cool creature design than like we mix T-Rex and Carnotaurus and get something spooky. Although I will also agree, the Ultimasaurus is a pretty cool way to do it. I never had that toy and I was always very upset about it.
No, I never had any of the Chaos Theory toys.
Oh, I had two Velociraptorixes or whatever they were called. The feathered Velociraptor toy that was made in 1998. Universal. Anyway.
I'll basically just say like you guys essentially just hit the nail on the head with what I would answer. So what you said.
Anyone else? Amelia?
I mean, it's a similar thought where it's like, okay, yeah, either just go all out and put a Triceratops head on like literally anything, or the other way, like depending on how they explain it. I really like the direction that the Rebirth movie is going in for like something that's just so clear that's just wrong. It looks wrong. It doesn't look like a dinosaur. It looks, I don't know what it looks like. People are saying it looks like a primate. I think those people need their eyes checked. But something that like, yeah, like something that like is just kind of messed up and kind of it look like developmentally, like it has clear developmental issues. Like with that one, like the stumpy little arms, like things like that kind of like they give embryology. My brain is scrambled egg right now. But just something that like kind of makes use of like actual research on like just the crazy shit people do to embryos to see how genes work. Like I think something like drawing on that, like bifurcated hands and things like that, like things that have a basis in reality like that are wrong. But like in this situation, I guess it's not really a hybrid, but in this situation where we're trying to clone dinosaurs or cloning in general, like I think that is, in my opinion, the interesting avenue to take with it is like abnormalities like that.
Cool. I think those are good answers. I would say I would just make a dinosaur that has the ability to go, my face is made of rotten flesh. Rah, rah. Another man's heart beats in my chest. Rah, rah. Some people are going to get that. Some people aren't.
I'm shattered to pieces.
What?
Always
don't
sorry.
Don't worry about it, King. I'll find the link.
It's tremendous. But that's a fun question. Thank you, King Zasshu. Our next question comes from Dino Nerd 1, who asks, "What's the best Halloween costume you've ever worn?" it's not. This did not look the best. It looked very bad, actually, but I did enjoy the process of making it and trying to make it work. In which I made some very janky Mandalorian armor out of a base shirt from Fireball Whiskey, with the armor pieces being made out of PBR boxes and PBR cans that I flattened into pieces, and then like a trucker hat that I hung like the Mandalorian kind of style helmet off of, made out of PBR cans.
Cool.
Which was Boba Fett. I had to explain that.
That's rad.
I had to explain that to a lot of people, unfortunately. But when I did, they enjoyed it. They got it.
Do you have any pictures of that?
I think I probably do. It was my first year here.
I'd like to see them. That sounds fun.
But honestly, I probably peaked very early. When I was very young, I dressed as like a skeleton in a little suit. But my godfather drove me around in his hearse to go trick-or-treating.
That's so cool.
And so I got to come out of a hearse and trick-or-treat as a skeleton, which was a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
It hurts.
That's so rad.
If I ever have money to blow on a vehicle, I would love to get a goofy, like an old hearse, and just trick it out and have fun.
His was a Cadillac hearse. He had a very big classic car collection, and the Cadillac hearse was just a part of it. He also ran a crematorium, but the hearse was incidental to that.
It was unrelated.
It was an unrelated hearse.
Well, right, because you don't need that.
Was he
Do they? When people get cremated, do they still have? Is there still a hearse, or like, because you don't need that for remains?
I don't
You just take them in a takeaway bag.
I mean, you have to get them
There's
to
an
the
industrial
crematorium.
fan, and that's about it.
You have to get them to the crematorium.
You have to get them to the crematorium, but I think they tended to do that just in like very big suburbans. But you could certainly do it in a hearse.
Yeah, or like I know, like I don't remember, like when my grandma died, she was cremated but then buried, and I don't remember if we brought her, if the remains were brought in a hearse or not. I do not remember, but anyway.
Yeah, I know nothing about this. So I was back in 2008, the first Iron Man movie came out, and my Halloween costume that year was to be Iron Man, the Mark I armor. And my dad and I got 2 old Honda hoods from a local junkyard and spent a long time cutting them and forming them into a suit of armor. I still have the helmet somewhere around here, and the breastplate is hanging in my bedroom. I don't know what became of the rest of the armor. It was so uncomfortable because the one thing we didn't really do was smooth out the rough edges where we'd cut and ground it down. So it was just like sharp metal pieces everywhere. But rolling into middle school in that costume, I felt pretty cool.
That sounds awesome.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a fun costume to walk around in. But while I was trick-or-treating later with all my neighborhood friends, I just was shedding pieces of the armor, just basically throwing them down on the street as I couldn't take each one anymore. Like one in particular, the thigh piece was digging into my groin really badly. And I just remember I was trying to go up a hill and I was like, I can't do it. And I just unbolted it and just tossed it down.
Cool.
I gotta keep going.
Ow, my groin.
Ow, my groin!
Oh, that's very nice.
That's awesome.
It was fun.
Mine was it was either I did this back in college. I did Ash from Army of Darkness.
Ooh.
And that was a ton of fun. I do have some photos of that. I made the chainsaw hand out of an old Arizona iced tea jug and some plywood and a bike chain, and it looked really good. It kicked ass. It was awesome. And some old pipe fittings and stuff. It was great. And I got a thrifted a blue shirt and then cut it up a bunch and splashed fake blood all over it and just got myself all dirty looking and dyed my hair black and stuff. It was so much fun. That was a very fun costume. But my other one that I think I just absolutely knocked out of the park was my latest one, which was Holland Marsh from the Nice Guys. And I made it into the coveted nobody knew what my costume was club. I literally had besides the cultured gentlemen in this chat who have seen that movie,
A fine film. A fantastic film.
literally one person the 2 days that I wore that out had any idea who the hell I was. And like nobody on my Instagram story when I posted it had any idea who the hell I was.
That's tough.
But also, this is my very short soapbox of you watching this right now. When you're done with this, go watch The Nice Guys.
Yes.
It's a really, really good movie that for unknown reasons nobody saw. It got zero press. It was like, I think it was a pretty big box office flop. It's written by the same guy who did the Lethal Weapon movies. It kicks ass. It's so much fun. It's very funny and just a very good time.
It does
It's a great
slap.
movie.
Anyone else have any costumes?
So
Well, Alex, is yours your sleep paralysis demon?
Probably. I love making costumes in very short order, besides the sleep paralysis one. In middle school, I put together... Did anyone ever read the Cirque du Freak books?
I've never even heard of those.
No, they were very like an edgy monster thing. I honestly can't remember what most of the details, but one of the side characters was like a sideshow freak that was like half snake, and like I did like a whole like face paint and like carny outfit one year for that. That was really fun. I also, when I was in undergrad, or maybe my last year in undergrad, I did like a born again cultist costume, which was great, which was like kind of Mormon prep dress, but with this very evil goat skull I found in the woods. But he was wearing cool glasses, and I put a bow tie on him, and I carried him around to parties. People liked it. It played much better than I thought. It was like a 2 days before. I'm like, can I throw it together? And I'll find pictures of all these.
Amelia.
So, growing up in Wisconsin, it very often was very cold on Halloween, which limits creativity when it comes to costumes growing up as a kid. And so usually we would just go to Sam's Club and get like those like onesie costumes that were like an animal or something. Like that was usually what it was some variation of that. The only one, like, and then I think later, like basically all through high school, I have like a plague doctor mask, because that's something you can wear with a nice big winter coat, or not a winter coat. I have like a nice black like wool coat, and that works with that. I think the most involved costume I've ever done is my most recent one, the Beetlejuice one. Like, which is doubly funny because for that particular Halloween party at the AMNH with the other students, like other students were in costume, but I was the only one like full on, like I had face paint, my hair was a mess, everything. And so like in all of our group photos, it's just really funny. And I also wore it to SVP the following year, I think. Or no, it was the same year. Because SVP was over Halloween, which was really funny because, well, first of all, it was really fun. That was in Toronto, and we went to this really cool like bar and had a great time. And then afterwards we came back to the hotel though, and people were arriving. And so it was Oliver Rauhut that I met, and then met him again a year or two later when I was visiting the Regalius in Munich. And I'm like, we've met before. He's like, have we? I was like, yeah. I was Beetlejuice in the hotel. It was at the hotel at SVP, and I had face paint and everything. He's like, all right. So that was a really fun thing to have done. But also SVP, it should be illegal for SVP to be over Halloween.
Yes.
They've done it twice now in recent memory, and it makes me very upset because I love Halloween.
And the spirits of Halloween, this Halloween SVP, I think made a compelling case that we shouldn't try that again.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
Woo! Hot dog.
Two
Not
last
the last
questions.
question, but this one goes quickly.
I was trying to manifest it.
You almost
You're
did.
close.
But our next question comes to us from Dinosir, who asks a great question that I had never even considered before. If you could pick one prehistoric creature to run for president, what would it be and why? This would have been an interesting one to discuss before the election. Oh, well. My answer, I think, may have been the same either way, but it remains. I would love to see a Paranthropus run for president. because I think they would be peaceful. I think they would be a peaceful, chill dude who's like, yeah, just like, let's all be kind and just like eat some like tubers and hard nuts and things.
Root and tuber gang.
Delish.
I think the Dinosauroid, because I know that's not a real prehistoric animal, but we are electing a prehistoric animal as the president, and so I think this is within my margin of error. I think the Dinosauroid would be evil, rapacious. It would speak in bizarre chittering sounds, and I think it would do well as the head of Doge. I think it would be almost indistinguishable with its giant keel-shaped barrel chest and its 3-fingered hands. And also, if rumors are to be believed, probably a very, very odd penis.
I'm choosing to believe those rumors.
Oh, I choose to believe them too.
Later.
Oh, they have
Questions,
to be real.
but later.
Yeah. When I saw the barrel, when I saw the Dinosauroid with its big sternal keel and everything, I was just like, huh, that looks like a picture of somebody on a yacht I've seen a lot. Anyway.
So I think that it should be Luca, the last universal common ancestor, because it has everybody's best interests at heart.
I like that.
Thank you.
I think I agree with Dalton. I would want someone who wouldn't want any trouble, and would be interested in hanging out outside and maybe doing art ? Something like far enough up that we understand art and like cave painting and stuff. Not so far up that I don't know that they understand woke. Before whatever phase in human evolution that becomes a concept, I want it before that.
I mean, we
not
could,
for any nefarious purposes, but so that it's just like this is not a problem, you know.
So thank you, Dinosir, for your question. Thank you, Dino Nerd 1, for your Halloween costume question. And now our last question comes to us from the man with no name, who asks, what's the scariest moment from any horror movie you've ever seen that you can recall? Not like a jump scare, but something you found deeply unsettling or unnerving. I'm going to say my first one briefly, and I'll go more in depth on my second one, because I think my first one is shared, which is my first one. I said probably either The Bear in Annihilation or very recently, the depiction of kind of the limbo state that the spirits are in Talk to Me was extremely.
God, I need to watch that movie.
It was extremely unsettling. Like I mean, I have not been really scared by a horror movie in a very, very long time, since I was an adult, really, which is fine because they're fictional. But I do kind of like if they can have an effect on me at some emotional level, I find them to be particularly successful at what they do. And Talk to Me was that I left that movie and I did not feel good. I was like, I kind of feel sick to my stomach. Not nearly as much as also
Don't say it. That was. I know exactly what you're going to say, and it's going to be mine.
Alex will say that one too. The time I've left the theater feeling physically ill, Alex will tell you about that. But I will tell you that the limbo state of the spirits in Talk to Me just looks awful. Like there's like the last quarter of the movie, they spend some time with all these ghosts, and I'm like, man, it really sucks to be a ghost in this movie. It was very, very unsettling. So, and very well done. So good job, Talk to Me.
The most of the end of Hereditary, not the.
Oh my God, yeah.
Probably not the moments that you think. Like yes, her decapitating herself, very scary. But like when the thing is in the corner of the bedroom and just like kind of floats across the ceiling, like doing odd motions. I'm trying to not spoil the movie. Is she a person at that point? I don't know.
Payman? King Payman?
I'm sorry.
Hell?
Right. Hail Payman.
Hail Payman.
So like that scene.
I think you two are talking about different scenes.
I think
It's
we are.
all the spooky stuff is
all
Payman.
It is all Payman. But just the scene where what's the actress's name? God.
where Toni Collette is like
the mother, Toni Collette, where she and the husband character are like trying to burn the book, and it's like spoilers for Hereditary. They throw the book into the open fire, and then the husband just immediately ignites on fire. It's weird because it's almost comedic the way there's like a beat there, but something about like the sheer like powerlessness that they have in that situation, where it is like it's not even a scary demon at that point. It's like the demon is just with them. Love it. Hail Payman. Also, the entire movie Lake Mungo had me.
I want to see that.
good one.
Lake
Good
Mungo.
one. Good one.
The end of
Heavily
Lake Mungo
unsettled.
is so good.
Heavily unsettled. Very scary. Also, I'm sorry. Wait, no, I have to say this now. Speaking of Mungo, that's the actor Hugh Grant's middle name.
Yeah, his
His name is Hugh Mungo Grant.
That can't be true.
It's true.
It's true. I wouldn't lie in a Skeleton Crew video.
One of my coworkers is currently cat sitting for a person who has they have two cats. One of them is the Great Catsby, and the other one is Mingus.
I'm sorry. Wait, no, I may have lied in the Skeleton Crew video. His name is he's Hugh John Mungo Grant. So he's not Hugh Mungo Grant, but one of his middle names is Mungo.
You wouldn't lie in a Skeleton Crew.
Somebody stop me.
So mine is one that Dalton said. It's the Baron Annihilation. That is to, and I was saying that this would be a slight counter to something that Alex said at the beginning of this, what ended up being very long Q&A. That like when a scene goes on for a while, it can be like, it can very quickly transition to from the initial startle of this is scary to this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. The bear scene in Annihilation started out like, oh wow, this is really rad, this is a cool, like that's a wild like monster design. It got scarier, and then there was a bit when spoilers, because I can't talk about this without spoiling. There's a bit where this thing, this bear with a human skull in its head opens its mouth in front of the woman on the chair and screams in the voice of her dead friend. That I was terrified, and I had the wild experience of literally every single thought, every single emotion left my brain entirely clear. 100%, all of it, like flushing a toilet. It all just went, and it was replaced with, you need to leave right now.
Cool.
You need to leave right now. It was the only time I've not just been scared, but had fight or flight so thoroughly triggered that it took every bit of my willpower to stay in that chair. My body wanted to run out of that theater at full speed. I saw this like a little bit after I saw Hereditary, and I remember that, like, James, I think the scene that you were talking about is again with the spoilers, when the kid wakes up and his mom is up in the corner of the room, barely visible. I remember describing that to my friends as like, that is the feeling of a movie showing, like as an adult, a movie showing you a nightmare that you had when you were 5 and just going, hey, remember this?
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is the scariest thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. Remember this? It's right there on the screen right now. And Annihilation was like, it was uncanny. It was uncanny valley to the nth degree of, it was just showing something that was so fundamentally incredibly wrong that my body viscerally reacted to it. It was amazing, and I need to rewatch that movie.
It's an incredible moment.
No, don't do this.
I long to. I wish that the rest of the movie lived up to that moment.
Other great Hereditary scene, when she's sleepwalking, lighting herself on fire, and pouring paint thinner on her son. Anyway, God, that's such a good movie. Amelia, what's the spookiest scene in a film you've ever seen?
I don't watch horror movies because of the anxieties. I don't need to give myself new things to be afraid of or to worry about because I do plenty of that on my own. I think the only movie I've ever seen that actually qualifies as horror was Nope. And even that, I would argue, isn't really necessarily horror. Like, it felt to me more thriller, Western, sci-fi. Like, it was off-putting. Like, and like with that, I think... I'm trying to remember. I mean, there was like the first scene, which... Well, not the immediate first scene, because I didn't understand what was happening at that point. But the second scene where they're driving in the car. And it's just kind of like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on, and this is upsetting, and I've never seen a horror movie. So I was like, okay, here we go, fine. And the rest of the movie was actually mostly fine. I think the only part that was like upsetting was when they returned to the chimp. And did the scene. Instead, like when they returned to that, like that was the only part that really bothered me.
Yeah.
I think that in a non-classic horror way, because also the part in the barn, which is just like classic jump scare silliness. Like, okay, cool, but I've gotten jump scares from other non-horror movies, so I wasn't counting that.
How did you feel about the digestion?
But anyway,
that one is what that really upset me greatly. That scene.
I've heard people. I've heard that is usually the one that didn't really bother me. I don't know why. I guess like I'm not claustrophobic.
Oh,
so maybe
fair enough.
There's that. It just didn't. And it took me a minute to like realize what was going on, but I was like, oh, okay. But then I was just thinking, I was also a side note of this is I watched this on an airplane, so I did not have like a theater experience with this. I know, I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not even. That's not even like a snob. Like,
no, I understand, especially for that scene in particular.
But no, I refuse to watch movies with planes in them when I'm on airplanes. I will only watch period pieces. It's a plane. It's in the sky.
That's okay. Not an airplane, first of all. Second of all, a movie that I like almost always watch on a plane when it is available to me is Top Gun Maverick, which is a lot of airplanes, but that's different. But anyways, yeah, so no, it was like that didn't bother me, but because I'm not claustrophobic. And then I immediately just started thinking about, oh, this looks like practical effects. That's cool. And so I was distracted by that more than anything. And like I said, to me, I think the chimp scene, I think at that point had already happened. And that was what I was thinking about more. I was thinking about that more. And then the initial like driving in the car where it's his dad, right? Mm-hmm. That like just kind of turns and looks at him or looks at him. And I was like, okay. So like that, those scenes had already made impressions on me. So by the time it got to that, I was like, oh, okay. Looks like a balloon, whatever.
A balloon.
Yeah. But no, I don't generally partake in horror movies, but I would like to try to watch more of them because I think I would like them from like practical effects and just general like art standpoints.
I think you would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex has to give his answer.
Oh, no,
Alex gives his answer.
The scariest, the most frightening experience I've had in the film, and I think this is one Dalton and I shared, is I watched about 15 minutes of Sonic 3 and I looked at my watch and I realized only 15 minutes had gone by, and it was the most scared I had ever been.
Mr. Wayne.
Mr. Wayne.
You beat me to it.
Shadow is the scariest. No, sorry. I don't mean to hate on our... No, I do, actually. Dalton and I think Shelby was with us. Doesn't matter.
Yes, Shelby was with us.
And we saw a experimental horror picture called Skinamarink.
Yes.
I need to watch Skinamarink.
And we were in a theater. It was maybe half capacity. There were people in there. And it was a small kind of intimate little theater too.
Yeah.
And I was basically on the edge of a panic attack for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like checking my phone. I'm like, this.
Me too. And I don't do that in the theaters.
I was doing it because I'm like, I don't know how much more of this I could physically tolerate. And that's to its credit. It's not a movie everyone will like. It's really something you have to kind of meet on its own terms. And, that works for some people and it doesn't work for some people. I saw it a second time in a different theater. And I also think having seen it once, it's kind of like Blair Witch.
Like it doesn't work if you've seen it before.
It doesn't hit as hard the second time,
I can really believe that.
Which you can that is perhaps a weakness of it as a film if it can be only watched once, but it is itself an exercise more than it is a movie. And that exercise is, what is the scariest memory you have from your early childhood / the worst dream you've ever had? Here it is, the movie. If you aren't familiar with it, it is a series of shots of hallways, still locked shots of hallways at weird angles and rooms, and the plot revolves around two children in a house, and all of the doors and the windows disappear. And that's the movie. And there's something in there with them.
That is something very hostile.
Yeah, the most awful thing you could just really a horrifying thing.
True evil. Yeah. Just
pretty cool. I remember getting out of that, and I got into bed and I felt like I had an entire cup of coffee minutes before going to bed. I'm just I can't. I feel bad.
I've wanted to watch it very much, but I remember, Dalton, you specifically warned me. You said, I think it would do catastrophic psychic harm to watch that in a place you live in. And I just have
That's
not...
what I was about to say. I remember both of you immediately texting us afterwards that oh my God, it was so good. It felt like a 90-minute anxiety attack. Don't watch it at home. Don't watch it in a place where you sleep. Watch it with a friend. Don't watch it. It was just this series. It was a warning label, the Happy Fun Ball SNL skit
right.
of requirements to watch the movie.
Yeah, and you know what? I stand by those still. Don't watch it in a place. Yeah. It won't be as effective, first of all, if it's in a place where you feel intrinsically safe. But it also, I would not want to taint my home with that.
I'm desperately curious, and I have been resisting the urge just because I haven't had the opportunity to watch it anywhere but a place I live.
Yeah, that's
you should just rent a hotel room in a haunted hotel
Honestly.
on the East Coast. You guys have a bunch of those out here, apparently.
And
Kalani would be like, James, you can be honest with me. Why did you book a hotel room in the middle of the week? Why aren't you telling me what you're doing there?
Why is Scott here?
Yeah,
I had to watch a movie.
And me just being like, it's not what you think. We just want to watch Skinamarink. Anyway, should we end the video?
We should end the video.
Yeah. I really wonder what the final runtime is going to be because we have so many very long cut bits on this.
I think it's probably going to be an hour and a half. I think there's going to be a cut out half the length time kind of video. But anyway, we're not going to cut out me thanking our patrons, who at the time of recording include insert nickname Benjamin Seepser, Christopher Bellis Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adam Olos, Black Spectral Pig, Blacklight Virus, Brett Booth, Camphibia, Chaotic Kaiju, Dinodom, Kevin Preem, King Zasshu, Life Finds a Way, Resty HBK, Severed Moosehead Tavern, Squat Pump, Super Shovel, The Wigster, Touch Connors, Wanderer, and Wheat Mrs. Website Baryonyx. So thank you all. We all miss him.
Yeah.
We also have many other patrons who do not get all verbal shoutouts at the end of the video, but are nonetheless very appreciated for the support they give the Skeleton Crew. Catch us next time when presumably we're talking about a Jurassic World Evolution 2 monstrosity, or maybe even a dinosaur. So that's all, folks.
Bye-bye.
I think. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Keep it groovy.